one of my guilty pleasures, if you will, is cold Italian pizza. And it's very gratifying to open the fridge door and find a slice that's left over from, the night before, day before, whatever. And I bring this up not to explain my beautiful physique here today, but rather to talk about our cities. And our cities are like great refrigerators filled with leftover spaces. Spaces that if we start to use them properly, will make for a better environment. Now, we're all very aware of all of the crises that face us today. The climate change, oil reserves, unbalances with respect to economics. All of those things affect us, either directly or indirectly. And as an architect, part of my mission, if you will, is to try to make at least some portion of those issues much better. And so what I want to show you today are 3 projects which begin to at least build a dialogue for discussion with you. Now, Albuquerque, some 70 years ago, was about 30 square miles in size. Today, it's over 180 square miles. And that kind of continued expansion is unsustainable, really. And what I would like to see us do is start building back on our city and making our cities much more compact, much leaner, much more buff, if you will. And so that we start to reduce the amount of energy we expend just simply by distance. So we're all aware that automobile traffic and so forth is difficult. We're all very aware when we go to the gas pump what it costs us, and it keeps rising. Not to mention things like the problems we've experienced in New Mexico with DWIs. So if we started to build our cities back in on themselves, some of these problems begin to diminish. And that's what I want to show you today. The first project that I want to show you in this trilogy is one that I designed over 20 years ago. And essentially, it looks at the rooftop of an industrial building, a warehouse building, and starts to use it as a new landscape for building buildings. And this particular building was owned by someone who was in the fine arts industry. So what we proposed then was to create a nice gallery space and conference center and home for the individual that owns this. It was never realized, but the idea is there. In other words, that we could start recapturing some of the existing buildings such as this and start building atop them. The second project I want to show you is based on the alleyways, particularly of Albuquerque, and specifically in the Nob Hill region of Albuquerque. And what I propose there is that we use those spaces, which were always meant to be for utility, we use those for a different type of utility. A utility that gives renewable energy resources to the houses which inhabit that block. And by doing so, in this particular case, it is a photovoltaic arbor system. By doing so, we recapture those alleyways for the use of other potentials. So for example, we could start to see new cottage industries opening up to those alleyways, where someone could have a hair salon, a catering business, art gallery, and so forth. And all of these alleyways then could really become a source of neighborhood pride as well as ground floor involvement in terms of the energy usage. So the final project that I want to show you in this set has to do with a site that was left over by the traffic engineers and developers of this particular neighborhood back in the 1940s. And at that time, the interest was really building up our roads for the automobile, giving individuals the ability to travel at will, at leisure. And so as a result, there's many leftover spaces within those systems. Now, I don't want to say that the automobile is a bad thing. I'm the proud owner of a 1963 Porsche 356 since 1977. And I love the automobile as much as anyone here. But we need to start looking at it from a different perspective. So this particular project takes that leftover piece of land and turns it into a vertical community garden, one where the community can start growing vegetables and so forth, but it's compact and it goes vertical versus spreading out any further. And so my point about this is that there are many spaces, leftover spaces, that we can start using within our city, within other cities in this cause. And I just want to say that if you get outside of that bubble, which has 140 horsepower under the hood, and start walking, you'll find a whole different city here in Albuquerque. You'll find that window shopping doesn't require a password, for one thing. You can actually look at an item and touch it and smell it and really understand its value versus looking at something continuously over the net. Now, I'm not, I do as much shopping on eBay and other sources as much as the next person. But I do want to say that we really need to start using things such as our roadways for walking for a change rather than just driving, and we need to use bicycles. Our public transportation system here is very good. We just need to start using it more. All of those things will make a difference in the cause of bringing our city back in on itself and making it a much more vital and valuable place to live.